Hello everybody, this is Cheri at djsundry.blogspot.com, and I needed a thank you card, and I needed it to have a lot of real estate. Now what do I mean by a lot of real estate? I needed room for lots of people to sign, and so I had done another card using this artfully sent cartridge recently, a much smaller card than this, but it made me think of this card, and I decided, you know what, this is the card I want to make for this thank you note. So in the artfully sent cartridge, if you look on page 13 down, using the sleeve feature of the card and the shift sleeve feature of the card, you get this lovely filigree card. Looks like this. Now I want to give you a couple of hints, some things that I've learned about this feature. First of all, this card is cut at 7 inches. The card that I previously did was cut at 5.5 inches, and it did okay. I am using an old Cricut Expression, and quite frankly I don't know how old my blade is, and I think that that made a little bit of a difference with the 5.5 inch card, whereas the 7-inch card cut much didn't leave behind as many pieces. Having said that, there were still lots of little pieces left in here that I had to poke through and get off, and in so doing sometimes left a little space. That's not a problem for this card, but I just want you to be aware that you want to be sure you have a sharp blade. I haven't tried cutting this on the Explorer yet, but I wonder if the Explorer would give you a little bit cleaner cut, because it is such a detailed card. But I'm going to cover all that up anyway, so it won't matter. Now, the next tip that I want to give to you, and I knew that you wouldn't be able to see this on the card, so I'm not showing you the how-to part of it, but on these cards, they have designed them to have little teeny tiny tick marks, and they are teeny. In fact, this cardstock, they don't even really cause much of a break in the card at all. However, because they're so teeny tiny, they're a little bit difficult for me personally to see. And I like to use my Score Pal, but when this cut, it was 7 inches this way, but it ends up being about 10 and an 1/8 or a 1/16 inches wide, and I wanted to cut it down the middle. So what I did is I took my little card scorer. I have this little one from Martha Stewart, and rather than putting the card in here and lining it up like so, what I did is I did something similar to that, and then I took my actual fingernail and I found that little tick mark and made a little bit of an indentation so I could see where that was, and then I played with it until I had the tick mark in a groove, which if you look at this one, that leaves, let's see, a little bit on that one. Doesn't fit all the way because that puts it right in the middle, so I moved it over here, so I've got a little bit of space here. So you just kind of have to play with it, and I've discovered that if you go with the tick mark, it seems to make it more even. It's still not perfectly even on the side, but it's pretty close. Okay, so now we're going to do our card, and from here on out this card goes super fast. So the paper pack that I used on this is the Blossom paper pack from Close to My Heart, which, as you've probably noticed, and you may be getting sick of Blossom, but I have loved the Blossom paper pack. It has just been so much fun. I love the colors and the style. So what I did is I took this piece and I cut this at 6 3/4 inches tall by 4 3/4 inches wide, and I just put that down right there. Now I have another orange piece, and I'm just going to layer it right on top, and I took that by 4.5 by 6.5. The reason I did that is because I want to coordinate the two sides together, but I also want to provide lots of space for people to sign and write their names. So because this is a group card, this is a card that will probably be given from my whole church to someone that we wanted to send a thank you note from. So there needs to be lots of signing space. And I do have a small church. So there's the first part. Now we're going to go to the second side. This is the same paper, but they're double-sided, and this was kind of a fun, it's not truly tone on tone. It's got some of that sunset color in there and some lighter color with a little pop of lagoon coming through, which I thought was perfect for showing up through there. So, but what I did on this side is I cut it to be the same pretty close to the same size of the outside of the card there. So this side's going to be a little bit bigger than this side. I think I'll be able to achieve a sense of balance with it anyway. I think I'll trim just a hair off of the top because I think I can get away with it. But what you have to be very careful with a card such as this is that you don't have a lot of space around the edge of the card to adhere things down. So you have to be kind of careful. Okay, I'm going to set that aside, and I'm going to grab out my liquid glass. Now I have a straight pin stuck in here, and I would not recommend it being in there permanently. I actually didn't mean to leave it in there. I forgot it because it will rust. However, for this time it will be nice because my glue is going to start flowing very quickly. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just putting a very small bead around the outside edge. And I will tell you, a little bit goes a long way. You don't want to put too much because if you do, what will happen is your glue will come through your front through those holes. So you just want to put the minimum amount possible to make your piece adhere. Now, I don't want any popping up in the middle, so what I'm going to do is periodically, I'm going to go through and in the center of some of these little filigree designs that almost form like a center of a flower, I am going to just randomly pop some spots of glue in there just to give it that extra little holding power in the middle. Now if it does come through, which I would be surprised if something of it doesn't come through, but if it does, I will just go back through and wipe it off. You could take a piece of typing paper or something and put it down underneath. I use my mat, and that's just what I prefer to use because it's non-stick, but you want to be sure that you put something down there, otherwise you're going to end up with a bit of a mess. So I'm just going to find a place I can put my finger to kind of eyeball and line that up. That looks just about right. Okay. And I'm just going to adhere that down, and I'm going to press firmly all across so that it's down in the corners, in those centers. Now on this part here, I've got a little bit of extra glue, and if I close that card, that glue is going to adhere to the other side and it's not going to open cleanly. So I want to rub as much of that off as I can so I don't have a mess when it dries. Okay, so now we've got that done, and you see what a fun front that makes, and we've got a nice space here. Now I can put my matching piece of orange cardstock on, and then we will have two sides for people to sign. So you can see it's really a nice big card. Now if I was not wanting to have lots of space to sign, I honestly probably wouldn't put anything on this side. I would just put this front on it and then just leave the pattern paper showing. But since I need so much room, we're going to do it like this. So I'm going to close this, make sure I don't have any glue coming through that's going to make a mess, and then I'm going to set that aside and we're going to get to our stamping. Super simple stamping here. So what I have is I just have a piece of paper that came in the Blossom pack. I believe that this color is Sunset, though I'm not 100% sure. I think that's the color though. And I have this stamp, and this is from this Pathfinding Workshops on the Go stamp. Now, if you know anything about Close to My Heart, you know we are getting down to the end of a catalog. Very, very soon, many of the products in the current catalog will not be available, and both this stamp set, which you can only get as part of a workshop on the go, and this piece, or this paper packet, will not be available very soon. So if you really love these, I encourage you to head over to my website and purchase them while they're still available. Now you might be wondering why I stamped that with so much room on the side. The reason I did that is I cut my little piece bigger than what I needed so that I would have room to play with it and decide how I wanted to position it. So when I look at that, I'm thinking actually then I may go right about there. I'm just going to take this and trim it this way. Now I am going to show you how I make a banner. You've probably seen this before. You may make it differently, but this is what I find works really well for me. I eyeball it just about in the middle, and I cut a slit right in the middle. Then I go from one corner to the top of the slit, then I go from the other corner to the top of the slit, and most of the time I end up, not that time, with a pretty even banner. Okay, so I am going to put that right about there, and I think after looking at it, I'm going to trim a little bit off of this side and kind of go with it right like that. Now I wanted to add just a little pop of color on the front, a little bit pop of coordinating color. So I'm going to cut an additional piece of this. Now this piece of paper is a part of what we call the zip strip. It's the top of the piece, or I call it the zip strip. I don't know if anybody else does, but it's the very top of the pieces of pattern paper from Close to My Heart, and they always have this little bit of extra on the top, and there's usually a design on one of the sides, and I find that really super fun because it provides you with just that little embellishment using its own paper. So I am going to start by adhering the strip down, and I am going to go all the way to the edge of the card using the concentric circle flowers to kind of line it up, and you'll notice that I didn't get it quite straight there, and so now I'll just trim it to be flush with the end of my card. Then I'm going to use my little banner and add that right to the side. I'm going to overlap that just a little bit, like so. And that just provides a nice little pop of color. And that is all that I plan to do to the outside of the card. However, I do want to add one thing to the inside of the card, and I forgot to grab it, so I'll be right back. Okay, so I couldn't find the stamp that I was going to use, or that I thought I had, which apparently I don't have. So I was going to stamp a scripture passage that talked about being thankful on the inside, but since I couldn't find what I was looking for, we are just going to call this one done. And it's pretty simple, but it's still pretty and provides lots of signing space. So thanks so much for stopping by today, and remember, take some time to enjoy the little things. Have a great day. Bye.